All right then, welcome back to the Foxhole. Episode 2 of AfterShox. The newly minted video podcast that accompanies the regular Foxtrotting and the Foxhole podcast that comes out every Thursday or Friday. Told you we'd be adding a new layer of content to the stuff that we already do. This is kind of exciting to get this journey going as we've already got one episode in the can, and this is the second one, so we're going to probably release them both at the same time, give you a double dose. Also, keep an eye out on my girl SJ, homie. She's dropped a new episode about happy hour. I'll be posting content links about that, so always cool to keep abreast of what's happening in the wonderful world of SJ Gets Down. Definitely will post links about that. All right, on to episode 2 of AfterShox. This episode is going to feature a conversation with my friend Alec Ford. Alec Ford has been on the podcast several times in the past, as he's the de facto NCAA and NBA correspondent for the Foxhole. And so we've had many spirited conversations in the past. You'll definitely enjoy this one. So grab an adult beverage, tune in, and I'll see you in a few. Here we go. All right. So we're actually doing this again because there was technical mishaps on my end. But it's really cool that Alec wanted to come in and do this one more time because we had so much fun.
Yeah.
So we are going to give another shot at this and actually even have more fun than we did last time. So anyhow, welcome back to the Foxhole. How you doing, Alec?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Not bad. Just enjoying a tranquil day before it heats up in the Willamette Valley for the next, I mean, I guess the whole West Coast is about to,
Yeah.
steam up here for the next week or so.
Oh yeah. Well, we're getting a 107, 108 coming up this weekend. So we'll
Yeah,
enjoy
yeah,
the low hundreds for today.
absolutely. That late August reminder that summer's still around.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Alrighty, so to get this thing rolling, we'll start off with this. Since we talked about this last time, I'm going to try to rephrase this question. Now, given your feelings about the state of college athletics, which is one part of it, right? It's almost kind of like asking you that again. But I think what we didn't ask last time is how sustainable is this new model that we're moving towards?
Well, like I've kind of mentioned before, the new model we're moving towards, I fear, is it's not the current setup we have is not sustained. I don't think will be sustainable in it because when we're already kind of seeing attempts by the big boys to try to push out the little boys in the context of the college sports realm. When I see what the Big Ten and SEC is doing, I just don't see how this inevitably turns into a two-team or like some sort of power league within the NCAA that has basically the Big Ten, the SEC, and maybe a few other schools from the ACC or Big 12 eventually breaking off from the NCAA. Because I just think, like, in terms of money, they probably feel there's too much involved, and why not cut the little guys out right now or why not cut them out from getting to the pot? And at that point, I don't know how college football necessarily survives at the rest of those schools. Or, I mean, it might survive to a degree. Would there be in fan interest or anything, knowing that that's like even a second division within the context of the NCAA football Division 1 that we've known all our lives, basically?
That's a very interesting point you make. There are several interesting points, especially when I think about the sustainability.
Yes.
And, it's almost like, the beast being this carnivore that's really chewing up anything that it can, because and the thing is that we talked about this before.
Yeah.
if you create like a super league, which is sort of like pivoting towards NFL mini, I don't know what you want to call it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's the interesting thing because you wonder about everybody else who obviously, because I mean, come on, look at a San Jose State or
Mhm.
even a Fresno State. How can those schools really, you knowing you from California as I am, know
Yes.
that, I mean, how do those schools even compete in this where you're talking about having a 25, $30 million NIL budget just to put a roster together for football?
Well, short answer is they won't. They, I mean, they don't really, they don't necessarily, I don't think they have the budget to do it. I
Hmm.
mean, as long as they're within the confines of the NCAA, they have a chance. Um, I can't think of necessarily any big donor. I mean, if you're talking about those two schools in particular,
Sure, I'm
I
just
can't
yeah,
think of,
and there are a
I
lot of
mean,
people that fit that model.
yes, yes. I mean, I really can't think how they will compete. And as we've seen, if they are lucky enough to get a diamond in the rough,
Mhm.
it's that diamond in the rough won't be there for their junior, senior year, obviously, at the way it's set up. So I don't know how they could compete. I mean, granted, hopefully this whole thing doesn't burn down
Hmm.
and they could have that magical year or they could at least compete in the same umbrella even if they don't have the finances, but I don't even see that happening, honestly. Like I said a million times, I don't see that happening either. So we'll just have to see going forward, you know.
Okay, that's an interesting point because even though I was about to ask something else, that sort of opened the Pandora's box for me because I think, in terms of it being sustainable, there is this other, I don't know, we'll call it a personality thing for the kids and the parents. You know, the
Mhm.
kid that's what we're saying at UCLA now, right?
Yeah.
Who basically, tried to like pimp Tennessee and Tennessee told him to hit the bricks or
Mhm.
something to that effect. And I forget who it was a couple of weeks ago who said he completely lost a locker room because they were fighting over NIL.
Yes.
And being right, there was just all of these things, as you pointed out, in terms of being able to keep somebody, especially if you're at, a non-big dog school, we'll
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
say. So, what do you think about that? Because I mean, there's obviously with the settlement and kind of an idea of what the budgets can be, but you still have to wonder about the parents, the agents, or whatever kind of advice they are getting to where a coach feels he's lost a locker room.
Well, I mean, the agents are probably the biggest problem in all of this. Um, the concept that these kids are supposed to be going to college, in theory, and granted, we've both known that it probably hasn't truly been like that even before NIL existed. I mean, we've heard our fair share of stories. Let's just put it
Well,
that
sure,
way.
sure,
But
sure. It was a different model, and we'll get to that in a second.
oh yeah. But at the
Um,
same time, I mean, I feel like the agents are the ones that get into kids' heads. And obviously you got the families that
sure. An
want to
extended
cash
family,
in. I mean,
we start talking this kind of money,
oh
sure.
yeah, understandably, knowing that a lot of these kids grow up in, not the most ideal financial circumstances,
No
at
doubt.
least. So I mean, they figure, okay, why not cash in right now? But I mean, you lose the I mean, like we said, you lose the camaraderie of how a locker room's supposed to go when you have people just looking out for how they can make their own money. You also lose it if players could essentially break their agreement, like even halfway through the season at this point. Um, like when we
True.
saw at UNLV.
The
I mean, one thing
quarterback,
I never
sure.
even got to that I think hurts this. And keep in mind, I was like very pro this rule when it first happened, but now I'm rethinking it, knowing that it's causing people to basically quit in the middle of the year for a bigger paycheck. But the 4 game red shirt rule, I mean, that's something that I don't even think is on most people's radar that
And it
plays a
should
big
be.
part. But it should be because it plays a big part on it. And I don't think the 4 game red shirt rule, I don't think the spirit of the rule is made so a kid could just use it as leverage to demand more money from their college. I mean, like that's the thing. That's the part where I could actually even say it's ridiculous that because normally even like a pro player, I mean, granted, making a lot more money than a college player, but they can't just quit in the middle of the year because they're not happy with their salary. So, I mean, I just don't know what you're setting these kids up for. I mean, in the long run, you know.
Well, it's interesting, and I have to circle back to this because, well, no, I'll get to that in a minute. Because
Yeah.
I mean, as I said in the text setting this call up, if that things have changed a little bit since we last talked,
Oh yeah.
and let's flip it over to this is a two-parter. One, the whole Michigan penalty,
Oh.
whatever you call that, and now Auburn's saying, well, SC didn't win, so we're going to claim a couple of more titles. I mean, a lot of funny stuff going on since we last talked.
Well, the claiming of the titles is ridiculous. That's all. I mean, they should be. I mean, we all saw what happened. I mean, on we all saw what happened on the field. It would be like if us Dodger fans tried to hang. Could you imagine if we tried to hang out the World Series banner for 2018? That would,
Sure, absolutely. People would laugh. I mean,
yes, yes, people would laugh, no matter what they.
if not
So
ridicule, would probably be an even better way to describe that. But
yeah,
yes, yes,
so
indeed.
so that's pretty hilarious. And then the thing with Michigan, I mean, I think it just shows what kind of leverage now the big boy schools have because it's obvious that Connor Stallions did a lot of shady stuff. Like the deleting of the text messages is something that we all know what happened. Um, and he's the current coach of the team. The fact that he didn't even get suspended at all, did he? Like just um yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know. It seems like they were pretty knee deep in that situation. I mean,
some skullduggery.
every Michigan fan will say, well, they won the title afterwards, but it still affected games at the beginning of the year, what they did,
Oh,
the filming, the
absolutely.
signs, all that
In the
stuff.
same way that we're always going to look at the Patriots with a certain scrutiny because of Spygate and other shenanigans. It's just like,
Yes.
hey, you guys are up to something. And
Oh, yeah.
I just think it's interesting, though. I don't know, I guess from the meta perspective, what? You just pay a fine and they make so much money in this new Colossus. It's like, I don't know, what were the numbers as far as the fines? I can't remember. I didn't dig deep enough
Oh God.
into the actual numbers, but it's like
Isn't
it's
it?
cap air in terms of the kind of money they're going to make in the Big
Yeah.
Ten,
Oh yeah, I know. It is. It is. And I
right?
misspoke. The coach of Michigan is Sharon Brown,
Yeah,
I believe,
or
and
more.
or more, yes.
Mhm.
And I Connor Stallions is the guy who seemed to be a part of the thing. He's not the coach of Michigan, so
No,
misspoke
no, no. I got you. But for everybody
misspoke on
else that
that
might be
one.
watching this, yeah, that's
But
just a
okay,
clarification
it's
next year because I was thinking that too. But I was like, oh
yeah,
no, I think he's
you know
go
what I
on.
meant. But
Yeah,
anyways,
totally.
but no, like the fine is chump change when you look at how much money they're getting. So Michigan got a slap on the wrist, and I'm not sure that if there wasn't this threat the NCAA felt of the big boys having most of the leverage and being able to just kind of go off in their own league, I'm not sure they wouldn't have at least got some sort of no TV ban, some sort of maybe even a 1 year bowl ban, because honestly, people have gotten bowl bans for a lot less than what
Sure.
Michigan has been accused of
I
doing.
mean,
So
forget about the bowl, no CFP access.
yes,
I
exactly.
mean,
Oh yeah.
right? But a while back because like, yeah, you can go to the Cheetos or Tostitos bowl and do whatever, but you don't get any of that CFP love, which
Oh,
would
I
be
know.
that's where I think 1 year would have just been just considering the kind of harsh penalties that body has given in the past to
Yeah.
folks. And yes, we are moving to a different time, but it's like, come on, man.
Oh yeah. And yeah, I mean, you got Coach Harbaugh out back in LA as all this is going on. So that's another kind of funny thing that happens with this story.
Oh,
So it's
sure.
just,
Just like Pete Carroll before him with SC goes
yes.
on to the NFL. Who cares about the show cause thing? I'm going to be in the NFL for the next decade,
Oh yeah,
yo.
the show cause thing is like the biggest joke because we both know Jim Harbaugh isn't going back to college anytime in the near future. So really nothing happened of
Yeah, I mean, when it really comes down to it, okay. So let's flip it back to what we asked before.
yeah.
And so this goes back to Charlie Baker.
Uh-huh.
Because this obviously this Michigan sanction is kind of a test case of his leadership. Fair to say the first time that he's,
Yes.
oversaw something like this.
Yeah.
And I thought Emmert was a I don't know, a lackey. I don't even know what to call this guy in light of seeing this. And I'm thinking what I asked before about the biggest challenge, but I'm just kind of wondering, is it just staying relevant, period, and not getting completely pushed out of the way other than sports that make no money?
Yeah, no, I think that's what I think it is what it is. It's just staying relevant, period, having
Mhm.
that umbrella because you don't want to be the commissioner that had the league collapse or had the whole NCAA collapse under you. I mean, heck, look at the embarrassment that like Larry Scott and George Kliakoff have to live
This is
with for the
true.
rest of their life. And the NCAA would be like on a much bigger scale than like one conference, totally collapsing. So yeah, I mean, at this point, I don't know if that, like we said, this Michigan thing, which wasn't even on the radar when we last
This
talked,
is also
um,
true.
and is I mean, we were talking about how the big boys have the leverage, and
Mhm.
if you had given them like a CFP ban or less access to money or whatever, I mean, that could have that. I don't see how that couldn't how at least in the back of their head they couldn't think, okay, we this could possibly lead to them just saying f this. We have the resources to form our own league and like NFL mini, and we're gonna
Sure.
do it, and we'll get all the big boys to do it with us. So
Because the last thing anybody wants is to see one of these conferences actually go to the courts and invalidate half this stuff. And
yeah.
as I say, often you can always find some whackball judge who says, you're right. This is an unfair situation.
Yes, I know they could. Well, yes, that's another thing you have to think about is that you don't know how they would do in court if
Mhm.
anyone actually tried to contest it. I mean, who knows if the structure would actually hold up in court, honestly, if someone actually thought to bring it. I mean,
That's my
keep in
thing.
mind the main reason we have NIL right now is because of the courts,
Mhm.
So I mean, they wouldn't have formed those rules on their own. So,
No.
that's
Right. And to get ahead of the courts, all sorts of leeways and looking the other ways kind of like became, the basis of what we have now.
yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. So
I know it's not funny, but it kind of is.
well, I know it's funny in a non-funny way,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean, all the stuff that's happening. So
Okay. So then on that, in that front, um, we talked about this last time, and I think it's worth bringing up again because I saw something weird. I forget what platform it was on, but there are talks apparently instead of going to 16, people are saying, what the F? How about a 24 or 28 game playoff if we're going to be NFL mini?
oh, I saw that. I mean, I just saw that yesterday.
Okay, so I wasn't imagining that. So yeah.
I saw that yesterday,
Uh-huh.
and
Okay.
I just think it's crazy.
Isn't it though?
It strikes me as totally crazy, honestly. Um, I like I said, it strikes me as totally crazy, but it also kind of shows the purpose of this is to get the is to push crowd to little guys out though, because under what the Big Ten wants, and it does seem right now, for whatever reason, the Big Ten is proposing more ideas than the SEC is, and the SEC would go along with it. But first of all, a 28 team playoff for college just sounds totally nuts for me. I mean, heck, move it to 14, move it to 16 first, and maybe slowly move your way up to 28 at some point. But to
Yeah,
go to just boom, go right from four, essentially, it would start in 27. To go from 4 to 28 in like a 3 year period is just nuts. I mean,
that's
it does devalue the. I mean,
sure.
what we know of at least what we've traditionally expected of college football over the years. It definitely devalues a lot of the games because like any big boy school could easily get in the top 28. I mean, what the Big Ten is proposing is I think it's borderline insane though. Like you want 7 auto bids for your conference and for the SEC. So you want essentially 40, about a little more than 40% of your conference to get into the, or about 40% of your conference to get into the playoff basically. And then for 28 teams, you're actually saying only 2 teams get auto bids. Okay, sorry, only 2 non-power 4 teams get auto bids. Um, so I just don't see how this doesn't. I mean, I don't see how it would pass. The one thing I haven't looked up that I should know is, and I will be honest, I don't, is what's the vote that would take it to pass? That's
There's
something I
certainly
don't
that to
know.
consider because, from my perspective, because the Super League concept that we've brought up several times in conversations,
Yes.
where as being the spoiled brats and taking your toys from the sandbox and going to your own playground, which the big boy schools could do.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what the number would be where you would derive that 28 from. And what kind of Super League? So I'm guessing if you're taking 28 teams, what's that based out of?
Yeah.
If and because I think I don't I'm with you in terms of there's too many hurdles for that to happen anytime soon, I would
Yeah.
think.
I would
But
think, yes.
right. But I also feel in the greed mode, and if things did turn into a Super League type of world where, yeah, you strong arm the NCAA out of the way, sure, I can see that being a possibility. I just have to know how many schools make the cut into this, Super League and how is that broken down. But, that's for another day to decide, right? Or
Yeah.
figure out.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? I mean, we don't know. I mean, I would speculate it would be 32 to 40 teams that make the cut, and then the rest. I mean, I would suspect that anyone in the Big Ten or SEC, even the schools that are on the bottom of the league would make the cut just for the brand, just from a brand standpoint.
Hmm.
And then you would add, really, there would probably only be 6 to 8 schools in the other conferences that make the cut.
Yeah. What was I watching today? Oh, okay. I was watching The Herd
Yeah.
and the cat who's filling in for J-Mac this week. He
Okay.
brought up a good point when, was Colin was on his high horse and how Colin always liked to say, well, I grew up in the Northwest. I was a Husky fan. And, damn the old rivalries. They still play Oregon and get the best SC in Michigan. And, the guy interrupted him and said, well, yeah, what about the Oregon States and the Wazoos who fought the good fight but got shut out? What? They're supposed to go home and go away?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean that's how I see it happening eventually.
Yeah, I guess
I
so.
mean, I hope it
I
doesn't. I
hope
mean,
not.
I am a little happy. I mean, that at least from Oregon's perspective, they're still trying to keep the Civil War alive, it
Sure.
seems.
No reason
Now if
not
they
to.
can't, I mean, this could be the last year of that, which
Which would be
would be
really
that
unfortunate.
it would be unfortunate. I mean, but at least that because I try to look for signs that the big boys aren't gonna 100% push the little boys out. The 2018 playoff is not a sign. If anything, it's a sign of the opposite.
Hmm.
But one of the little signs is the fact that Oregon still has interest in playing Oregon State
Sure.
when
I
it
think that's
doesn't
going to
really
continue.
when it really doesn't do, at least Oregon, it helps Oregon State more than Oregon to
Sure,
have that game
sure.
played.
I think the kind of profile that Oregon has
Yes.
now, you definitely put yourself at risk playing a Beaver team who will always be dangerous, no matter if it's the Great Pumpkin coaching or this guy Trent Bray.
Yes, yes, yes. So I mean, so like that's one hope that I have, but I really hope that the Wazoos and Oregon States don't go away because it's been I mean, just my time in the Pacific Northwest, it was definitely nice having that little, kind of mini ride. I mean, even with the Cougars and who aren't as big a rivalry as the Huskies or the Beavers are for the Ducks. It is kind of nice having that Northwest connection. So I mean, we don't want to see that stuff go away.
Oh no.
I mean, even from afar, I am definitely intrigued of the new Pac-12, and I definitely want to see those two schools do well in the new Pac-12. And I don't know, like my question is that if my worst case fear happens, would those other schools still would the NCAA care to operate football without the big boys on top of non-revenue sports? And that's something I really don't know if that I really can't answer. I'm not like an accountant or anything to know if that's worthwhile for them to do.
Well, I think, and I always thought this, and it kind of makes me sad, really. But all the West Coast schools, and when I'm talking West Coast state schools like the one I went to, and
Yes.
Long Beach, Fullerton, all those teams had programs, and I'm like, travel by bus, it still should be happening. Is what blows my mind away. It's
Yeah.
like going, okay, you don't play the big boys, but it can still be something that's sustainable, and I see that more happening once a lot of the mid majors and even smaller, fringe schools, however you want to call them, sort
Yeah.
of get pushed out of whatever is going to emerge, it is going to be about having something regional and localized where you don't have all flights and you may have smaller rosters and things like that,
Yeah.
where it actually does kind of go back to its roots, maybe.
Maybe, like kind of like a little upward version of like what high school football used to
Hmm.
be back in the
Hmm.
day, travel on buses, like local trips. I mean, yeah, there's no reason all those like state schools in Southern California that like the one you went to couldn't do that, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, the quick sidebar to that, I was talking with the guy that I did the last Zoom podcast with. We did one on tennis. A good friend of mine, who also with the CSUN, and when we were lamenting on that was kind of the one thing that would get people to go back to a commuter school, right? As far as everybody getting together, as they do for duck weekends and things like that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're not going to be out in the valley unless you have a reason or you're visiting somebody. And for the football, when it was there, that was kind of the cool thing on a Saturday because you're
Mhm.
not going to probably have time if you live far away to
Yeah.
go to a hoop game on a Tuesday, on a Thursday or Saturday
No.
or
Heck, the
baseball, that
Ducks
stuff.
have that problem,
I bet they
so
do,
it's not. So, I can't even imagine what little commuter school, but what kind of problem that would be for little commuter
Oh
schools.
yeah, and I felt like it killed a lot of the spirit of the school as far as the alumni. I mean, it's still 38, 39K because it's one of the bigger commuter schools, but still,
Yeah.
last time I was there, which was about a little bit over a decade. Yeah, the vibe just wasn't there. I was just like, dude, I went to the football field, but you can barely see what's left of it. And I'm thinking, man, you all killed the spirit of the school when you did that. Anyways, let me
Oh yeah,
not
football is. I mean, like just one thing I want to add why
go
it
for
why
it.
it would be sad if this
Yeah,
happened is
sure.
that what makes college sports different than pros is that like I mean every single state has a team. Okay,
Hmm.
whereas like if you look at baseball and like the NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, even MLS, all those sports, there are certain markets that just can't have a professional team. But with college, it seems like every single state is
Oh,
represented
totally.
every team. Like so you could be you could take pride in your home state through that. Whereas like I mean like baseball, like you look at, I know people that grew up in Mississippi and their teams are like the Cowboys in Texas and the Braves in Atlanta because those were the two closest um those were the two closest professional teams, at least growing up to where they live.
Sure.
Whereas, like, you don't, whereas, like, with college sports, with at least the current NCAA model, which still has big boys and little boys, everyone could have their hometown pride within that, you know. So
Oh,
that's
sure,
why I
sure.
hope that doesn't get lost, like similar to what you're describing happened at Northridge, you
Mhm.
know. So for you, you know.
Yeah, I know. And there's like, yeah, okay, cool. We're rocking, so we can always pause for a second before we start this back up. But we're good. We got like 8 or 9 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, and I said the thing about it is, even we talked about this last time, but the non-revenue sports in general and the battle that they are facing. I think I brought up the whole thing with the Cal Poly swim team. They were told to raise 12 million. I think all they could come up with was seven, which was pretty astonishing. Like, how did you get
Yeah,
$7 million of
I know.
funds for a
Seven's
swim
impressive to
team?
me. I'm impressed by seven, you know.
Yeah,
So.
and it wasn't enough. And to think this is the kind of climate we're in where a non-revenue sport can raise $7 million and it's still not enough to continue. What does that mean for these other sports?
I mean, these we're not in a. I mean, we're not in a good. It means they're not in a good spot, obviously, because
Totally.
here's the thing: like the other consequence, if this break off ever to actually happen, is football funds pretty much whole athletic departments at a lot of the big schools. Oregon probably being one of them, honestly. I mean, you get a little bit from basketball, a little bit from women's, but just generally speaking, lots of those non-revenue sports go away if they ever come up with this big super football league. So, um, and really, that's less opportunities for people to get scholarships, for people to get get the value of
Oh,
of the education
yeah,
going,
absolutely.
because those are people that a lot of those people are people who that's their key to getting to possibly making it big in the world,
Oh,
is having the opportunity to play track or water polo or whatever. So hopefully they would have some way where that didn't go away. And I don't think it's inevitable that they would go away, but I definitely something that I would be afraid of if I was someone that liked one of those non-revenue sports or saw the positive in
well,
them.
sure. Because somebody way back in the day, when I was at CSUN, and how they what do they call it? The Mountain Pacific Sports Federation, and for volleyball.
Yeah.
Is where you have all these weird schools in the conference where Stanford, Pepperdine, UCLA,
Yeah.
SC, Long Beach, Northridge.
Uh-huh.
And going to those matches was pretty epic. And it was pretty close. It's all kind of social Southern California. But the
Yeah.
thing is that in this new normal that we're pivoting towards, I'm not sure how they survive, let alone Title IX, which I think is dead.
Oh yeah. I mean, technically you have to be Title IX compliance, but
Right, but I
I just
don't.
don't.
I think though
Yeah, I don't think that.
we're
Okay,
we're
that could
going
be one.
towards. I don't think it's possible.
Yeah, I don't think it is. No, at this point, no. Um, especially like with football,
Yes.
doesn't. I mean, it's been hard for schools to do it like in the current to keep up with it in the current model because there's no women's equivalent to football, obviously.
Hmm.
So, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't think it will ever get overturned by the courts. So that could be a motivation for them to break away in and of itself, though, because I don't. I mean, you never know nowadays, but I don't see a court actually overturning it. So, um, so we'll have to see what happens with that. At least they
Yeah,
won't
it's not
overturn the spirit. They won't overturn what you legally have to do. I mean, that's
right.
what I
But I
mean.
think that there are going to be, I don't know, how do I say this? There are going to be provisions that acknowledge,
Yes.
right, certain entities and their ability to generate revenue, are going to trump, where Title IX can't be applied to this
Yes, I
because.
think so. There'll be little minor rulings that
Mhm.
could essentially break Title IX without necessarily breaking it 100%, breaking it on paper, I guess.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I'm with you there. I'm with you there. Let me see here. It brings me up because it's so interesting, and and we'll continue this. But we're kind of speaking of Oregon, I think it's so in my upcoming podcast, I've got something to say about the whole tie-dye day and the Grateful Dead making a partnership with the U of O. I mean, the whole corporatization of the Grateful Dead is just like, oh,
Oh,
sitting there, Jerry's like smoking a joint somewhere, going, "You effers."
yes. Oh, every time he sees John playing with them, he
Well,
probably
that too. I mean, I'm just saying the corporatization of it. But I was kind of sitting there thinking about the Ducks, and Phil obviously turning down getting involved with the Blazers, and focusing on the big donation they just made to what was it?
OHSU.
Yeah, OHSU,
2 billion for
2
cancer
billion
research.
exactly.
Thank God. Thank God for that.
Oh, absolutely. I
Yes.
mean, and so kind of like waving his wand in certain ways. But now that he's what, 86, is it?
Yeah, I think that's about right. I don't know
Hmm.
exact age off the top, but
I'm
that
pretty
sounds
sure,
about right.
okay, 85, 86.
Yeah, he's in that range, like mid to late 80s. Yes.
Right, and I'm sure he's got the best health care available. So if he can live to 105, he's going to live to
Yeah, exactly.
105.
I would love that if he could. Yeah.
But, let's just, given the odds, once you get to that point in life, well, how do you see the Ducks going beyond Uncle Phil?
Well, I mean, I see him leaving a big donation to our athletic department. Um, I don't think he really has anyone in his family behind him that would care as much about Oregon as he does, and in terms of whatever NIL. Now, in on theory and paper, with the new kind of budget that you have to go through, he's in theory limited at least in terms of what he could directly pay to Ducks, anyways. Um, but I mean, that's a good question. What life will be like after Phil dies for Oregon? I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen
Right, right. It's just
anytime
something to
soon.
consider, with
But it's
anybody
something to consider
when somebody's 86 years old.
because he has the power to maximize our 25 million, and obviously there's outside opportunities he could offer. Now, I don't know if the NCAA would veto those and say that's part of the 25 million, but
Mhm.
who knows. So I think we'll be okay, but I could also see the scenario where we just don't have that big donor that's willing to outbid teams. Um, and quite frankly, like when he first put money into the school, our facilities were one of a kind. But honestly, other schools have copied ours over the years. So I don't know. I
Sure.
really don't know how much of a facilities advantage we'll have,
Absolutely.
especially when you look at the Big Ten TV contracts or the SE or just the TV contracts sports are getting in general. It's like all these schools could put up money for facilities.
Well,
So I mean,
sure. And I think, and we're about to flip over here. So,
yeah.
but one of the big components to this all, and this is why it's going to be interesting, when you see the schools that it's not only the facilities, but the entertainment district that's
Mhm.
part of it. I mean, and that's something to think of for Eugene. I know there's things that are going on as far as linking downtown to the riverfront and sort of having everything connect at some point to
Yes.
create, because the one thing the Ducks are going to need to continue to compete and stay modern is that combination of a stadium and
And then,
entertainment district. But hey, let's pick that
oh
back.
yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even
Yeah,
think about that. Yeah, we'll pick that
yeah,
up.
let's pick that back up here. We'll cut this right now and pick this back up here in a few in about 5 or 10 where the next meeting starts.
All righty.
Okay, see you in a sec.
See you soon.
All right then. That was fun getting started with Mr. Ford talking some NCAA. We'll come back to that here in a second. In the meanwhile, always going to drop the taglines in. If you want to be on the podcast, sponsor it. But especially if you want to come into the Foxhole and take part in one of these cool conversations, make it happen. FTINFX@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. Or you can call the hotline and leave me a message, 541-525-0896. Definitely, the Foxhole experience is growing. AfterShox, we're going to rock it. Or the scene, if you want to do cultural, artsy stuff. Or SJ Gets Down, if what's on her palette suits you. We're always open for people to come hang out and chat with us. It's always fun. All right, back to part 2 of my conversation on the NCAA with Alec Ford.
All right.
All righty. Okay, so we'll go live in 3, 2, 1. So going back to the whole entertainment district, which
Yes.
is something we didn't talk about. We kind of scratched the surface of last time.
Yes.
But we're seeing more of these campuses, and like you said, facilities. Everybody, there's 4 or 5 different templates probably out there now of how people do it.
Yes.
Right. But in terms of these entertainment districts, and there's all kinds of intriguing concepts, and you wonder how with Phil getting older and how's Oregon going to compete? Because even Oregon State kind of has a mini version, and it's ongoing expansion recently of that.
Yes. Well, so you brought up a point that I had never thought of with Autzen is that there really isn't much around like walkable that you could really go to um in terms of like just places to stall after the game while you wait for your Uber, wait for your Lyft. Like really the closest place you could really walk to is the cooler and that's still like a decent amount of a walk after the game ends. So I really don't know if that would ever happen if Phil didn't make it happen while he was still alive,
Right, or
because
make plans for
or make
that.
plans for it to happen because um and what's crazy is that there's actually the land, like now that I'm like just kind of going back in memory lane in my head, there's actually land around there to
Oh,
make it
sure.
happen
Oh,
if
it
you
could
really
totally happen.
wanted to. Now, there's a lot of old school people that would lose their tailgate. But
Hmm.
I mean, as crazy as it sounds, I know Duck fans well enough, and I know
I do too. Yeah.
I know the
Hmm.
old school Duck fans well
Hmm.
enough to know that the people that would complain about losing their tailgating spot because of something like that, it's something that I don't, you wouldn't think about it, but like as someone who knows the Duck fan base and knows how important that is to certain people, I could see that being a complaint. But yeah, I mean, you think about modern stadiums nowadays, like having an entertainment complex around there is key to bringing people in. Like from what I've like as an example, like different scale, like what they've done in Dallas is just great in terms of like how they've made it
Hmm.
like a big entertainment complex. Haven't been to Atlanta to
Hmm.
Atlanta's new stadium.
You talking
I'm
about the
talking about the
Bens?
Braves. I'm talking
Oh,
about
the
the Braves.
Braves. Okay.
I'm talking about the Braves new stadium,
Hmm.
but I hear they've done the same thing.
Hmm.
Um, I also see, okay, the one hurdle I also see is I don't know if they would feel like they could justify that for 8 home games a year, though. Because you'd have to build something that would bring people there just on the normal
Oh,
Friday,
true. And
Saturday night.
this is where the
And is Eugene a big enough
no,
city
no, no.
for that?
But I mean, there are several things going on. As Springfield kind of. I mean, as Springfield's upped its game, which you've probably been out that way, they've
Yeah,
actually, in some aspects, have it going on more than Eugene, as
yeah,
far as a little nightlife and getting some meets go.
yeah.
But the slow, but it is inching along the whole connection from downtown to the river, which is
Yeah, okay.
basically going to connect to Otson. That's where it could get intriguing, where there's just going to be this kind of district from the Fifth Street all the way
All the way
along.
to the
Yeah.
spot.
Hmm.
Okay. No, and there is actually land to make that happen
Hmm.
too.
Totally.
That's the crazy part. So like there's I mean, I had
Well,
never even
sure.
thought of that as a
Yeah, and there's a
concept.
connector from Springfield as
Yeah.
well through
Oh yeah, you go the
Glenwood
other
and
way.
all
I mean,
that
yes, you
stuff.
go
You can
the
the other
other
way as
way
well.
on
So,
Coburg, basically. And
hmm
yes, you can make that connection also. Like there's
hmm
plenty of room to make it
oh,
happen.
absolutely. I think
Have like
that's where that's part of the master plan where the town and the university meet. Where I've been envisioning it to happen. I thought it was going to happen around the 22 worlds that were here, as far as giving us a glimpse of that. But I think COVID set a lot behind, and nobody really knows what's going on. I mean, as far as projects go around here, it's a
I mean, also, I
mystery.
mean, if you look at where Haywood Field is,
Hmm.
I mean, you probably
Hmm.
need some other stuff in that area also. I mean, because I know the amount of people I know the amount of people that just come for the track events every year that happen there. I mean,
Hmm.
it's honestly shocking. I mean, I don't know if they would, I don't know if they would take that. I mean, it's all dorms you'd have to take down to really
Well,
make like a
sure, and everything's
walkable.
the high rise efficiencies that are going up and redefine the Eugene landscape, whether it's campus or even downtown. As
Yeah.
far as properties who somehow all these out of state kids can afford, because I know
Oh, I
there's
know some
stuff
of those.
back
I mean,
back in my day.
when I was there on my last trip, when we saw each other
Mhm.
at the LUFC game, um, I was amazed at like some of the how like just housing they had that was right on 13th, and I know that ain't cheap, and I know
Mhm.
there's students living there, and I could only picture how much that would cost. So I mean, they're obviously building, they're obviously building a lot of stuff there, but I never thought of the concept of the entertainment complex. But
Yeah, it's
you
huge.
brought it up, and I would
Yeah.
love it if that happened.
Why it has to happen because
Yes,
I don't think. I mean, you can always compete because you're Oregon, as long as
yes,
the Nike connection. But I think what's going to make it a lot more attractive, and I just gotta feel either Phil season or the powers that be pushing the U, because I think one of the things you give to give Phil credit is he has set up, or at least given the pathways to a lot of folks to set up these collectives. And
yes,
for some of the athletes who make money, I forget what the whole thing that Sabrina and all those folks belong to.
yeah,
He's definitely setting up for people with some pockets to continue this. I think his whole idea was we don't want this to live on the fortune I leave behind alone. It has to be sustainable, and I think he has thought about that in terms of creating revenue opportunities. But I just feel this is a vision. So, but okay, let's hit something else here along those lines.
all right,
Let's talk about Oregon. We talked about this before, but I'm kind of like curious now
yeah.
that we're 2 weekends away.
Wow, we're 2 weekends away. That's
Well,
crazy.
really week zero, so we're not.
Really? Okay, actually, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, week zero is coming
Is
up
week
this week.
zero this weekend?
Yeah, totally.
Wow, you were right. God,
Hmm.
that's crazy.
I know it's a
Yeah,
fucking
and then
crazy.
Labor Day is when it starts. But yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go
Hmm.
ahead. Yeah.
So, okay, we obviously know what happened last year. We don't have to rehash that too much, other
Yes.
than the usual suspects. Sorry, Gabriel Byrne, but the usual suspects are lined up again. Ohio State's there, Penn State's there, but when it comes to Oregon and Dan Lanning, not that he would ever be in danger, big balls, Dan.
No, no.
But how would you feel if they don't make a step up this year from where they've been in his tenure?
Well, I mean, I'm not expecting them to make a step up. They just
Okay,
can't
that's
fall off.
interesting.
They can't fall off a cliff. Um, but we will see the power of his building when you look at how few returning starters we have coming back.
Hmm.
Um, we will truly see development, how well they could development, because Moore did not. I mean, Dante Moore was a great. He had that great. He was a number one high school recruit, but the one act like when he played at UCLA, he did not look great. So
Hmm.
we'll have to see how last year sitting on the bench, learning under the system under Stein really helps him. We also have to see, like, how these new guys step up, what kind of freshmen, what kind of transfers, because I think we only have like 4 or 5 returning starters. And we're ranked preseason top 10, so not bad for it.
Well,
I
sure.
mean,
In one poll, they got a first place vote, which, obviously some people, I mean, there's always somebody
there is
who
always some.
got that
I
heart
mean,
for the
our
Ducks.
schedule's manageable though, because
Mhm.
if you're truly like an Ohio State, a Bama in the old days, or I mean, we shouldn't say old days. It's only been 2 years since Saint Nick left Bama, but
Mhm.
you win nowadays. You win 10, 11 games with with single digit returning starters. If you're truly gonna be take the next level, do be an elite program. So honestly, if we lost more than 2 games, I would consider it falling off a cliff. When you look at the schedule, when you look at least on paper the players that we should get. I mean, I'm not
Sure.
expecting us to go 12-0 into regular season or 13-0 if you include the conference championship game again. But if we're truly taking I mean, teams that are elite don't have random 5 or 6 lost seasons just because they have a very few amount of returning starters. All right. I mean, you could do that like once in a blue moon, but like at this point in his tenure, he needs to have a 2 loss season at most. And I think it's manageable. I mean, the
Well,
schedule's
sure.
manageable.
I
I
think
mean,
he is proven to be among the elite of current college coaches.
yes.
I think
I
what
mean,
it is.
I think he is. I think he's elite. I think he's as good a fit as Oregon's ever had
Mhm.
as their coach. Um, but I mean, the schedule sets up because on paper we're an underdog in one game. It's the game in Happy Valley. Um, and then we have a lot of games that are just tough games just because of the conditions they could be in, because of the type of school it is. Um, I'm looking at like the Iowa game as an example. Um, I don't even think like Washington is going to be particularly. I mean, Washington will be a tough game at the end of the year. So heck, I even think when USC comes here in late November, that could also be a tough game. But so like we have a potential, like if the guys landing didn't bring it brought in weren't good enough for whatever reason. We have a potential to lose 4 or 5 games, but I'm just saying the schedule's manageable. And
Okay.
if we do lose 4 or 5 games, it would just be
It'd be a stunner.
it would be tough. It would be a
That'd be
very
a stunner.
yes. It
You
would be
know,
like yes, it would be like going back to the bottom. I mean,
yeah,
I'm
the
not saying you
consistency
fight.
they have. People with, I don't think would be on the ledge, but yeah, the cackling would have. Yeah, I just can't see that happening either.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not saying you would fire him if you
Oh
do
no,
that,
no,
but I'm
no,
just
no.
saying that it would be a very. I mean,
No.
there'd definitely be question marks going into the following year
Yeah,
because
the temperature would rise.
yes. Well, also you're not. I'm not. This is the first year where I could honestly say that there's really a question mark at quarterback he's had
Hmm.
because between having Knicks,
Well,
having
sure.
Gabriel,
And I just think,
um,
yeah, this whole procession going back to many fools of running a quarterback that's already put in service, right? I mean, good how
yeah,
far, I mean, that goes back to beyond even Willie, right?
yeah,
Even Helfrich in terms of running these quarterbacks for a year or two, once
yeah.
the whole rules loosened up for that as far as letting the graduates.
Oh, I know. I mean, this is
So,
the thing is that we didn't take it, we chose to have a developmental project. So
hmm
we that's why there is questions at quarterback.
hmm
If Moore is our quarterback, Moore is our quarterback next year. And if he turns out that he could do what Gabriel and Nix did, then I would say, all right, we got something like in our coaching in terms
Hey,
of our
you know
scheming
what?
up here.
Tyler Shucks in the NFL, yo.
That is true. And he survived the coach Mario Cristobal
Right.
experiment to be that is true. He's with the Saints and heck, he might even be their starter, honestly. That's the crazy
That is the crazy thing, and
that
I
is a crazy
dollars are
thing.
doing it. I think he will be.
I know. This is so, but like going back, yes, we'd have to see because, like I said, we do have a question mark at quarterback. So that's the thing that will definitely may give me like some pause on being optimistic. But if we lose only twice, even if one of the losses is a bad loss, we'll make the. I don't see us not making the playoffs if we only lose 2 games. So and we
Okay,
don't have Ohio State this year.
that always
Um,
helps.
Yes. And if we somehow won the game at Happy Valley, then um that's that's that puts us in the playoff pretty
Yeah.
much, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
So and it probably puts us in the running to win the Big Ten again, or at least get
Okay,
to
so let me ask
Indianapolis
you
again.
this. Okay, so definitely had to cover the Ducks as we got the local connection, being
Oh
based
yeah.
in Maine and you being an alum and a lover of the Ducks. Somebody I can
Yes.
always have a rational conversation with. Um, so what four teams do you see? Um, based on what you may or may not know right now, because it's
Yeah.
hard to get your databases together. But
Yes.
what four teams do you see kind of keeping an eye on as far as outside of the Ducks being in that conversation?
Well, okay. I would keep an eye on I think Penn State, at least from what everything I've read, especially knowing what Ohio State lost, I think they're probably a slightly better team going into this year than Ohio State, but that game is at Columbus this year,
Okay.
so that we'll have to see how much that makes a difference. And you know what, Penn State always seems to be the team that Franklin's gotten them to the point where they'll win every game they're supposed to win, but they'll miss the playoff because they'll lose. They basically can't beat the Ohio States and the Michigans
Sure. There was
when
always the
Harbaugh was
big
there.
game
So
where, and throughout his tenure there,
yes,
pardon me with a horse throat there, as I like to say, there's always Brickman's teams just never have any money in their wallet at
no, I
certain
mean that's the
times. And
crazy thing
that's
about Penn State, at least like what Franklin's got them to, and we
mhm.
know a couple of
Accomplished a
people who are
lot.
Penn State fans.
Yes, we do. Yes,
We
we
have some
do.
mutual friends,
That
but
we do.
they won't lose a bad game. That's the one thing I say. They won't have that loss to Rutgers or someone like that. But
Fair
they'll
enough.
lose. They always seem to not be able to beat
Sure.
or
So
beat
that's
not Oregon,
why
but
I can
Ohio
totally
State,
see Oregon coming in
Michigan.
there and winning
Yes,
some weird game,
yes, I can
29,
see Oregon coming
22.
in there and winning some weird game like
Mm-hmm.
17-16
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. Um, Heck, they could have been in the playoff last year if they had beaten us or they were in the playoff. But I'm just saying they
Mm-hmm.
could have been a top seed if they had won that game like against us. They probably would have actually. They would have been a top 4 seed if they had beat that
Oh,
game, and
totally,
they
totally.
kept it. They kept it relatively competitive.
Yeah.
Another team I want. I'm very curious about. Obviously, Texas is an easy answer, because you got the Arch Manning aspect, and that's the team everyone seems to be very high on.
Well,
Uh,
sure. And Sark, who
and
has
so,
kind of emerged like
yes,
Lanning
Stark's kind
as
of gone out of that shadow,
totally.
whatever failures he had at SC and before
Right
that
with the
at
drink and
yes,
whatever. But the fact is,
yes,
he's rejuvenated his image and is
yes.
considered one of the top
Well, and
coaches in the
he's like a
game.
typical like what Nick Saban's done with coaches.
Hmm
I mean, if you look at the coaches that looked like they were down in the dumps that went to St. Nick's place in Alabama and came out on the other side is just amazing. I mean, I would say I'm like talking about him, Lane, even like the fact that Loxley was able to get a Power Five job after going 1-30 at New Mexico or something like that is crazy to me. But then, so like that's another team is Texas. I do want to see if the hype is there with Luck. But looking at their schedule, they got two losable games. Is Ohio that Texas Ohio State game coming out week 1 is just crazy to me that like you have that big of 1 versus 2 pretty much, or not 1 versus 2, but 1 versus like I don't know what Ohio State's ranked off the top of my head, but
I think
top
three,
five for sure.
I
Um,
believe.
I am curious about Georgia if they have a risk, if they can maintain it. Um, Clemson's a team that I'm curious about too
Thank
because
you. I was hoping you'd say that.
yes, because they have they have not really adapted well to the NIL era.
No,
They have a very, as we know, kind of a stubborn head coach
very.
who who pretty much is refusing to use the transfer portal. I think he finally dug in there this year,
Yeah,
but
he did,
he's
and that's
still
why
not
a
using it.
lot of people are
He's still
dancing
not
on that
using
bus
it.
right now,
So he's still not using it to the degree that a school that has had the success they've had the last 10 years
and that's
could.
fair.
And I don't know. Maybe I will say the players who are actually there seem pretty loyal to him. And he, I think it's definitely a way. I don't think it's necessarily a winning, at least powerhouse winning way to go. But even while refusing to use the transfer portal the last 3 years, I think he's won the ACC still like 2 of those years.
Mhm.
So, I
And
mean,
a lot of people are feeling that he's adjusted to this new
yeah,
structure in a way that's working for him. And there are a lot of prominent voices, like I said, dancing on Clemson's bus. And I'm
right.
sitting
But I
here
just
trying to
don't.
figure out, really?
No, I'm even thinking last year they won the ACC. They got to the
That's true.
playoff last year. Heck, Miami, they had no business beating out Miami for that playoff spot.
Mhm.
Especially when you look at how Cam Ward ended up being the number. Cam Ward was a once in a generation quarterback, I think, at least as a
Sure.
college player
Especially for that program.
for
And as
that program.
storied as that program is.
Yes. And the fact that Clemson beat them out for that playoff spot,
Mhm.
I mean, I think says a lot. I mean, they have, like I said, he may have he may have through his own stubbornness taken a step back last year or the last 3 years, as in like they're not in the Alabamas or Ohio States like they were when they were winning those two national championships. But he may have found a way to make it work for him. And I am curious how they're supposed to do this year. I mean, I don't believe, maybe you noticed, does Clemson and Miami play each other this year in the
I
regular
haven't looked
season?
at the schedule yet,
I haven't looked at the schedule because I know Clemson opens with LSU. Another week 1 game we
Mhm.
got there. um, but I know Clemson opens up with LSU, and then I don't think they have a losable game or a game that they'll be underdogs in after that. I mean, they got that Cade Kleineck guy as their quarterback who
Mhm.
showed some signs last year at the end of the like especially at the end of the year. So I mean, they're picked to win the ACC. Um, Miami, obviously, we all know how well Coach Mario Cristobal could recruit at least.
CMC, baby.
Yes, we know he can recruit,
Yeah.
but I just don't think I mean, I honestly feel Clemson will get their kind of back to their glory days back
Okay.
this year.
Okay.
I mean, they had so, and you know what? At the end of the day, I mean, how many they've won the ACC? I want to say 9 or 10 of the last 12 years or something like that. At least since Florida State stopped. So like they still had a pretty good run, even though Dabo refused to go into the transfer
Right.
portal.
Probably
You know,
lost out on this
yes,
next.
they could have lost. You could argue that they lost out on maybe winning a national or
Sure.
like at
Or at
least
least being
competing,
deeper, because right in
at
this
least being
recent
deeper.
run, where it's kind of been Big Ten heavy, but before that, Bama and
Yeah.
Georgia, It's kind of been a hot minute since they were.
Yes, it has been a good, yes, it has been probably a good three
Mhm.
years, three, four. No, I mean, the last time they were in the 14 playoff in the COVID year. And I think since then, since 2021, they haven't really been in the conversation for winning a national title. But I think they do want to get back. Okay, and oh, the next one, just overall, I'm intrigued with is the Big 12 conference. Like, does Arizona State kind of keep up with what I am actually intrigued by Arizona State and if they'll keep up what they had last year. We all know they have the Oregon connection there,
Mhm.
but I've always thought, even when Arizona State was in the Pac-12, and tell me if you agree with this, I've always thought they were just kind of like the hidden gem, as in like I never was able to figure out why they couldn't get one of their major sports to ever be elite. Because if you look at, heck, what 18-year, I feel like selling an 18-year-old kid on Arizona State shouldn't be that hard of a sell for whatever reason. You got the Phoenix area. I mean, we know what kind of, other stuff you got that Tempe has to offer, especially if
Right.
you're an 18-year-old kid.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
was never able to figure out why they couldn't ever, like, I mean, really, they've made, I think the Jake Plummer year is the last, until last year, was the last time they ever really made noise, like at least on
Mhm.
the football field, and basketball never have. So I'm actually curious if they could kind of get something built, if Dillingham could kind of,
Okay,
keep
okay.
anything built there. And obviously, we got our Pac 2 schools. I mean, with their schedules this year, I mean, I would love to see it if one of those two could, pull out a 9 or 10 win season.
Right. And get into the conversation. You
Yes.
see here. Okay, so we have to do resets or whatever. But let me flip this over here because we got football covered.
Yes.
And it's never too early, and this may have to seep into the next period. We'll see how that works if we get towards hoops.
Yes.
But hoops. Now there's two components to this because one, the men's game, and which just really tumbled from the Burj Dubai, the biggest building over there, and
Yes.
Dubai, whatever it's called, the Burj Dubai or whatever, right? But the men's game has fallen that far from what is that, like 132 stories or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
The men's game has fallen that far. And then the women's game, while it's peaked, does it taper off after this group of Juju, Hidalgo, and all these folks walk away?
That's a good question. Obviously they've had a run. We all know the Queen kind of brought a lot of eyeballs to college basketball. And so
Damn straight she did.
the people that she and the people who were like competing against her, like Paige Buckers and all them, were able to kind of like get their own recognition. Um, it all depends if it's like, if they could find a superstar to sell, or if they could just get the sport at a point where, what, whoever the best player is at the time, will people will just kind of delve, and they'll become the next, or people will kind of like just find their way towards them, and they'll become the next best player. I mean, that always seems to happen with like leagues or sports that are generally healthy, is that you get a fan base for the sport, and then they'll kind of follow into whoever the best players are, and that will keep the sport going. I really don't know if this is a fluke, or if it's something that's here to stay or not. There's definitely been more of an importance put on women's sports by, at the major talking heads, at least within the sport and within the sports context.
Oh, undoubtedly.
So, I mean, I really don't know. I could see it going either way. I mean, I just really have to see what it's like 2 or 3 years from now, at
Okay,
least if
okay,
you're looking at the college game. Um, I mean,
okay.
I
Go
think the
ahead.
pro game, I think it's just I actually think the pro game's just going to keep continuing to grow when you see how much. I mean, as long as CC is in the league, and
Okay.
I
Well, we'll
mean,
get to that
hopefully,
when we talk to hoops.
oh yeah, we will. But yeah, but
So yeah, let's focus. Let me flip the focus back to,
the
like I
college.
said, um, the Burj. It's not the, it's the Burj Khalifa. Is what I mean. My mind is much today. It's the Burj Khalifa is the building I'm thinking of in Dubai, which is the tallest building in the world.
Yes.
It's about to be surpassed. But I feel like the men's game has tumbled, and the question is, what can that institution do to revive itself?
Oh, the men's institution, I
Yeah.
feel I really don't know because
Hmm.
they're not losing. Okay, they're not at least right away losing the best high school players to um the pros. They haven't for 20 years because
This is
they've
true.
always had to at least spend 1 year in college for the last 20 years. Um I actually okay, I think with college men's sports, the way the tournament is set up, there's always been you always like your Cinderella dynamics, and the new system I think actually takes away from possibilities of having Cinderella type teams. Mostly because anyone who's good at a lower school could just transfer, will just transfer to like a major program within a year. Um, we've kind of had a weird run where the SEC has become like the best basketball conference like the last 2 or 3 years. And
This is true.
I don't know if that's the region that necessarily would carry the sport necessarily, at least college basketball. I mean, while we all know
Hmm.
they carry college football with their fan base. Um, like the major powers that you used to see that were good outside of Duke, most of them seem to have evaporated really the last like Kentucky really hasn't been relevant in years, I would
No,
say.
they're
I
a
mean,
blue blood,
they're a
and
blue blood, but they haven't,
yeah, they're
beat
not moving the needle.
they're not moving the needle. UCLA, heck, at this point, UCLA hasn't moved the needle in who knows how many years.
No.
I mean, really, they were a blue blood. It's in the Wooding years, but they haven't really moved the needle. And they kind of kept their blue blood reputation from the
Right.
70s. I mean,
But
but
it's fair
they,
enough that Tyrus Edney and Easy Ed
yeah,
have
I mean,
that's a
I
long ways in
remember,
the
I
rear
still
view
remember
mirror.
that as if it was yesterday,
Right.
actually, because I
Yeah,
was
but
still
that's a
living in
long way in the rear view mirror.
Southern, but yeah, it's really since that Tyus Edney year and
Mhm.
that short run where they made the Final Fours with Kevin
Years where
Love
Yeah, and
and
Florida was
Westbrook
just,
and all those
yeah,
players,
and
but
Florida
they
was
really
just too
had,
much.
but yeah, they really haven't done much even like since then. And then so like I really don't know if I really don't know what college basketball's problem is because um I also feel like maybe they have the similar problem the NBA has with like none of the new players that it doesn't seem like a guy has played in college that has been totally hyped up lately. Like when you look at Cooper Flag last year, he was the clear-cut number 1 pick of the draft the whole time, like the whole time he was there. But he's not someone that I feel drew eyeball. I don't feel like people went out of their way to watch Cooper Flag
No, I mean,
play.
if you're a hoop junkie, sure, you checked out a lot of the big ACC games he played because I mean, like I said, Hooper was like us. Yeah,
Yes.
okay, they're matching up against Carolina or such and such, but outside of it, I mean, the fact that yes, going to the Mavericks is going to be interesting, but there's no real excitement about that.
No.
Even last year in the Final Four, it was like, okay, you didn't really get flamed where you didn't play, a great game when they got eliminated. It wasn't necessarily all on him, though, but
I mean, here's the sad state of college basketball is that what percent of people do you think could name last year's NCAA
oh
champion?
hell no,
I
no
know.
hell no.
I mean, I know because I follow sports more than
Right, right.
most people. But okay, even last year's Florida team that won the national championship, I can't name it. I mean,
Does anyone even know the name of their coach?
no, actually, I don't even know the name of their coach.
Right.
Like they haven't formed like like the old school Gators when
Mm-hmm.
that won those back-to-back
Mm-hmm.
championship. I could have named their coach. I could have named every single person on that team, like for that whole 2 year period.
Oh, totally.
And a lot of
Maybe
them,
I
heck,
can't, but I know you
Horford's
could.
still in the NBA from
Right.
that team. So, and Donovan's still coaching the Bulls,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but no, I can't name one player on that team. And like, so, and then I guess the schools that have been big, like Houston's been in the Final Four
Absolutely.
the last three
Mr.
years. They're not a
Sampson,
school that,
what a great redemption story he is. And,
yes,
the
Kelvin
program.
Sampson has
Mm-hmm.
had a great redemption story,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, I'm not sure that moves the that's
No.
they're not able to. I don't know if it's because of how programming is nowadays, but I can't even figure out myself why they can't move the needle because
Mm-hmm.
that's a great redemption story. And Houston, we all know, had the Phi Slamma Jamma in the 80s.
Sure. I mean, it
So
is.
it's kind of a revitalization of the new thing. I mean, one explanation I could think of that I could throw out there, but I don't think this is the answer necessarily, is maybe conference realignment for basketball purposes kind of has sunk the sport. I mean, in terms because
Sure. I think so.
like
And
Stanford and Cal being in the ACC as an example,
right.
like
Well, and I think that the Big East being watered down for whatever reason from what it used to be.
yes,
Right. As far as those power schools that, we kind of grew up
I
through.
mean that's also another example is because like of how they've kind of maybe it's a marketing failure because
Hmm.
the Big East I would actually say has from a basketball standpoint, how they play standpoint, they've recovered well from
Truly.
losing all those schools. I mean, the conference itself is normally one of the top two or three
Well, sure.
conferences in the country.
And I
Like
think that's right. UConn obviously
UConn
being,
back in the conference now, but like
yeah,
Creighton, Villanova,
Villanova, all
like
these teams
Villanova
that are
got two natties like
exactly.
fairly recently.
Hmm.
Um, so like they're always a top two or three conference,
Hmm.
but they can't get the eyeballs like the old days where you had the
No, where it was,
Syracuse and
yeah, it was
Georgetown.
center
Like,
stage, Big
yes.
Wednesday.
And I think like maybe the MSG not being like well actually no, MSG is still the Big East tournament's still there every
Well,
year as far
sure.
as I
And
know.
I mean, the
So
fact that Pacino's turned St. John's into to must see basketball after a
yes, that was
generation.
another intriguing story last year
Hmm.
was the fact that Patino turned them into like a top caliber program within 2 years also. So
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So they're going to keep an eye on the trip. Well, the good thing about that, and like I said, it's interesting. Like I said, when it comes to basketball, which I still think is a revenue generator.
yes, I do.
Um, and it's this two-way paradigm. We talked about it last time, and we've got like about 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
I think expanding the tournament and rethinking the product could be an intriguing way to help the men and women's games. I mean, obviously, I don't think you need to expand the women's tournament the way that you need the men, where I could see, unlike football, we were talking about
Yeah.
with 28 teams, we're 96 teams
Yes.
and another
I would
tournament.
say, okay, with basketball, I've always been different because
Hmm.
once you've got to 64, obviously you could do 64 in a very compressed period of time. You do it in 3 weekends, mainly because you
Hmm.
could play every other day,
Hmm.
But I've always felt okay, teams that lose 12 to 14 games make the tournament anyway. So I don't feel like it's that devaluing the regular season when you already let teams in the tournament
Well,
that and I'm
sure.
not saying you
And
shouldn't
there's
either.
so many
Yeah.
teams in the
Yes.
NIT and these different tournaments
Yes.
that are 20 plus win teams to
Yes.
where, gee, folding them in, there's no question about their strength of schedule and their RPI, just that you've got that many quality teams and a lot of bull dookie tournaments that, hey, as we talked about before, make an extra weekend or two where
Yes.
they're playing their way into the tournament. When it kills somebody, I mean, obviously
No.
nobody cares until the last 3 weeks of hoops anyway.
Yeah, I know. I would actually think it's better. Expand it, like make it 1 week earlier. Maybe make the season start 1 week earlier because I still like the conference turn. I would still, like the conference tournaments because
Sure. I
you
think
know,
that can be
I think
factored
the
into
fact
this.
that there's always a chance that your team that would not make the tournament could get an auto bid from winning the conference tournament is something I've always liked about college basketball. But yes, just make it. Yes, I agree. Make it one more weekend. Maybe give teams buys. I mean, I don't know, but you could make it
Oh,
you would
easily. And
gain
like I
a
said,
lot of
even I
revenue.
think even 2 weeks, even shave the season down and create this, make it more about this, bigger tournament.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't know. I mean, something to contemplate. So, okay, we're in the final minute. I
yes.
think we can wrap this up and we'll go
Oh,
talk about basketball, so many sessions. I may have to send a different invite. I know because I'm seeing something weird with that one, but I'll text
all
it if
right.
I need to. See
Okay.
you in a sec.
All right.
All right. Always a pleasure to get his insights on what's going on in the NCAA or NCAA ruled by CFP. Anyway, looking forward to having him on throughout the season. Probably have a little bit smaller segments, but you never know. Anyhow, the great thing whenever we do get Alec into the Foxhole, not only we talk NCAA, we get to talk some NBA. So on the other side, get ready for some NBA hoops. Association, some queens of the court. Let's start
Yes.
with the association. Then the last time I could have asked what the big story was, but injuries, big contracts, a sell of the Lakers, and all that kind of
Yeah. Oh
stuff.
yeah.
But as we get closer to the season, I think the big story is the media rights deal and the new platforms, and where we're gonna have Tuesday night games that start at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
I mean,
11 o'clock on the
in the
East
East
Coast.
Coast. Are
Yes.
we trying to tell kids like F school? We're gonna
I
stay up and watch hoops.
I don't know who's gonna I don't know who could stay up to watch those 11 o'clock start times if you live on the East Coast. But okay, I will say they may regret go. I mean, streaming's obviously the new thing,
Sure.
but I do. We talked last time about how it seems the league has had trouble marketing these younger players. Okay, and
Undoubtedly.
they probably are. They probably figured they're really. When you look at how much money they got, they might figure, okay, it cancels out getting less ratings and less advertisings because we're just getting money from the we're just getting all this money up front from the streaming platform. But I also think that you kind of risk not being able, like you kind of risk growing your fan base. I mean, prior to last year, the NBA had a good ratings run, but at the same time, um, we'll just have to see how all this streaming works with the Peacock stuff going on and
Absolutely.
all that. I mean, it's worked okay. I mean, I don't think it's done harm to the NFL. I mean, since even their weird Amazon game they have, I mean, I don't necessarily see that it's done harm to them. So it's kind of a wait and see with the NBA with all that
Well,
stuff.
see, it's interesting. Okay, that you bring that up. And I'm looking at. I should have had it on my computer so I could just share my screen and put it up here. But
Yeah.
okay, you're wanting to like make a stream more games, pretty much as I do on the SJ Gets Down podcast. She had an episode about Death by 1,001 paper cuts, and we talked about streaming and
Yeah.
just all the different platforms you have to have, which you're going to have Amazon, you're going to have Peacock. And
Yeah.
so, and the thing is, with the NBA still, even though the torch is supposedly passing, when you look at national TV games, Lakers and Warriors have 34, Thunder and Knicks have 34. So
Yeah.
three of the four, I mean, yeah, the Thunder are defending champs,
Yeah.
But the Lakers kind of a long shot to win the championship.
Yes.
It was brought up, and the Warriors even a longer shot, but
Yes.
still kind of right in the tails of LeBron and Chef, as I brought up in my episode 275, going,
Yes.
this idea of having them on opening night, but at the same time, it's still saying, well, we're paying homage to the young with the Rockets and the Thunder, but it's still more about KD than ask anybody if they can name 3 or 4 Rockets outside
Yeah,
of
I
him.
know. That's the thing. It's like that. Even the Rockets. That's not an homage to the young. That's an homage to KD and the
Mhm.
drama that he brings with his matchup against his old team, and the fact that the Rockets now kind of catapulted themselves into a possible contender with that acquisition. But it's really there's no homage to, yeah, when you have those numbers there, like you mentioned, with I mean, man, the fact the Lakers and Warriors, essentially because of Braun and Steph, are still the most nationally
Well,
televised
sure. And
team
what's
is,
crazy is the Pacers making a deep run with the injury to Halliburton going to be out. They're not even in the top 10. And
those,
the bottom of the top 10 is the Mavs with Cooper Flag with 23.
yes,
The Celtics, 1 year removed from winning the championship, but without Tatum, they're at 25. So
yeah,
think about that. That
wow,
not
that's great.
these teams have like 9 more games. And in the case of the Mavs, who have Cooper Flag,
I know. I know. I mean, they don't really seem to be promoting their young players.
no,
And
that's
we
really
had Cooper
weird.
Flag last year, and
Mhm.
obviously we had Wemby 3 years ago, but the 24 draft has really anyone really come out of that you
It's
can
moving
see
the
being a
needle.
what?
It's moving the needle.
No, not at all. I don't see anyone.
Well,
So
so okay. So I pulled this infographic from I was watching the herd,
yeah,
and I forget who Colin was talking to, but it was an interesting point to what you just said, not showcasing the young, especially the East, given injuries to the Cavaliers and the Celtics, that Orlando might be a team that could actually rise, and
yes,
they're nowhere to be found on this
they
list
are.
in
And
terms of what they.
Orlando with what's happened to Halliburton, what happened to Tatum, they could be a top 3 seed in the East next year, and they don't. Yes, they're not showcasing them at all. So, um, I mean, yeah, a lot of interesting things happen, but obviously, right now the money is still in Steph and LeBron, even though they're how ancient those two are at this moment.
Oh, sure. And one of the things to that point, this is like a bullet point for my next podcast coming up here. Quick
Yeah.
plug for that, episode 276, I believe. But this upcoming next Lakers game right now has the highest valuation, with the average seat going for 1,333 bucks at the
Wow.
Garden.
You mean for their opening night against the Warriors?
No, no, this is when they play the Knicks.
Oh, okay, okay, I got you.
Right
Okay.
now, that's as a
Wow.
valuation, I'm sitting here thinking that, well, okay, the Knicks going to Mr. Peabody and having sort of questions, they're relevant again. And the
Yes.
Lakers, yeah, we got Luca and broad is broad, but I was still thinking $1,300, for a
Oh
regular
God, I still
season.
can't
I mean,
believe
this is
anyone
just
would.
the average seat. We're not even talking about Celebrity Row and
Yeah, I know. I can't believe someone would pay $1,300 right now for a regular season for even for that
for
regular
those
season
two.
game. You know. Um.
The part of
So
it is that and the Last Dance effect, and even Kobe's farewell and Kareem's farewell. There is a certain sense that maybe this is LeBron's last ride, so that's always going to like kick the price
yeah,
up, probably. So
yeah, it
people are
would.
like,
Yeah,
"Hey,
I
you
do
never
agree
know if
with that.
LeBron's
Yeah.
coming back next year."
Yeah. Even though I don't think this is LeBron's last ride. I think it's his last ride with the Lakers, but I don't think it's
Okay,
uh,
let's flip to that, because
yes.
last time I asked you the LA story, we won't go that route. Let's go about LeBron.
Yes.
And, I know Stephen A's like saying that, well, maybe you should go back to Cleveland. And I'm like, what the hell for? He brought love back to the land. His business interests are in LA.
Yes, they are.
Get, how do you extract Bronny and drag him out of all of that? I kind of feel like unless somebody made a ridiculous offer, like maybe Golden State in a moment of insanity, I don't see anywhere he fits. Would he go to Detroit, where he certainly can help a up and coming team? No, why the f would he do
Well, no,
that?
he's not ending his career in Detroit. I
Okay,
mean,
exactly. I don't see anywhere but the Lakers.
well, okay, I don't think the I just don't think I am not 100% sure the Lakers will take it unless we win the title or have a deep playoff run this year. I think there seems to be this sense within the organization. I mean, no one said anything, but just from little moves, little things they've done. I actually think Braun not being at Luca's press conference is more of
No
a sign
vibes.
than it's being made out, actually,
Yeah,
because
I mean, the
it's
thing
not
is,
that
no
hard
vibes.
for it's
Yeah,
not that hard for him to drive 15, 20 minutes to just
mhm.
show up at Luca's press conference at the extension.
Sure.
I'm just not sure the Lakers want him back, but he's not going to end his career. The only small market he would possibly end his career in would be Cleveland,
Yeah,
which is
that
probably
I agree
not.
with.
But I
Maybe the
think,
Godfather and him somehow break bread, and he goes back to South
see,
Beach
if I
once.
had to predict, I could see him and I could see him ending in either Golden State or even with the Clippers to keep his this. I mean, and that's
Okay, I never considered that one. Holy
yes,
moly!
yes. I'm
And the
only
Clippers
saying
would,
that
and
because
Butler would be the fool to say, "Yeah, bro, come on over here, right with us," because he loves the old folks home.
yeah. I mean, I'm only seeing that because I don't get a sense the Lakers necessarily want him after this year. Um,
And I don't think they should, in terms of the fan base is tired of him.
yes,
As many of them call him the bum,
yes, yes,
just to be nice. Fan
yes.
base is very exhausted, and okay.
I get the sense the fan base is thankful he put us back on the map, but
I don't know if that's the case with a lot of the rank and file. Even that's not satisfying.
yeah, even
And here's
that
the
may not
point.
be 100% true. But at
Okay,
the
but
same
the
point,
thing is, okay, disclaimer, folks. We're both, as you probably know, I am and he is. We're hardcore Laker fans.
yes,
So
exactly.
you
Yes,
know what? So we get this Laker talk in real quick.
yes,
Um, See, I think that because we hold Lakers to a high standard is
yes,
kind of
that's
a
true.
problem. Right? Had he been able somehow to follow the disputed COVID championship with another, because I think that's always a difference. Like, for example, the Patriots controversy, the
Yes,
Redskins winning in strike years. Oh, well, they won in 91. That conversation dies. The Dodgers
yes.
winning it
In
last year.
24 made that conversation.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
validates it. LeBron didn't invalidate what many feel is a suspect championship, and I feel a lot of rank and file Laker fans are kind of like, yeah, no, and the fact that we've been mediocre a lot of the time in
Yes,
this
we
run.
have. That's true.
Maybe not as bad as the back end of the Kobe's last years, and when we have the young guns, but we still, by our standard, considering he is, supposedly, in the conversation, as far as Mount Rushmore is concerned.
Yes. I mean, his Laker tenure has been weird in this way.
Yes, it has.
In this particular, I would say looking at LeBron's legacy, it's been weird because if you had told me that okay, what he's done for a person his age and the person is Miles,
Oh, it's
outside
ridiculous.
of Brady, outside of Brady, I think it's like unprecedented in professional sports
It
outside
is.
of
And
what
I would
Brady
say with
did.
Brady, it was
But
very
like you
impressive.
said, the fact that in a weird way, would his legacy in a weird way be better if he had fallen off and the team had sucked versus not that the team sucked, but if is the fact that he's actually been good, but the team's been mediocre, has actually hurt his legacy in some ways because he doesn't necessarily have the excuse of, well, he fell off a cliff,
Well, it's a fair
he got
point.
old.
And I think the problem is whether it's injuries or just, as we like to say with Father Time, the Steinway landing on your back in some of these playoff series, whether it be Denver twice or
Yeah.
Minnesota, where it's just like, you just don't have enough. And the Lakers, obviously, is from a supporting cast perspective.
Yes.
So,
I mean, we would have to see. I mean, like I said, I do think like I said, I do think he has one more team switch left in him
okay. No,
before he retires.
that's
Because
fair.
especially if he doesn't, I think I don't necessarily think he's justified for feeling this way,
Oh,
but
hell no.
knowing his ego, I think he feels the Lakers have slighted him,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
which
And
I don't necessarily think he's justified to feel that way, but I'm
no,
just saying
okay, fair
that's
enough.
what he
But I
feels like.
also feel, sometimes there are harsh realities that are dropped down on us. And I think with Mark Walter and his people kind of taking over, because I just feel that conversation was,
Yes.
so Jeannie, what would it take to sell the Lakers? And she's probably, hee hee hee. I don't know, Mark, 10 billion, what? Okay.
Yeah.
And, one thing led to another.
Yeah.
And I just kind of feel that, given what his group and Todd Bowley and Magic and others, when you see with the Dodgers and LAFC to another degree, bringing in Sonny, which was really huge, that's a
Yes.
whole other conversation. But I just sit there and I think, yeah, LeBron feels slighted, but it's like these folks see the reality and, they're building something bigger.
Well, they're
And
building something bigger. The problem right now is I'm not. And here's the thing, I was actually impressed at the last 15, 20 games of our season because after the Mark Williams trade, I said, after the trade got rescinded, put it
Mhm.
that way, I thought to myself, we have no chance of winning the title this year because we're so thin inside. And then I had the way they played the last 15, 20 games, they actually got me excited. And then the reality of the playoff start happened. You had Rudy Gobert's game 5 against us, where it was obvious that not having a competent big man definitely hurt us that year. So, but having said all that, I just don't feel like Luca and LeBron are necessarily great fits next to each other. They're
Oh
just too
no,
talented. They're just too
they're too
talented
ball
players.
dependent.
They're just too
And
talented players, and neither one of them could play
well,
like
that's the other thing.
to play defense at this point. And then you got Reeves who does, I mean, I mean, that's the scary thing about our team next year is that like we got a bunch of players who can't play defense. Like we'll
Right.
have to like we almost like go to the strategy of just let the other team score so we could, so we could get the ball back quicker.
Right. And just really hope that our perimeter game has been better. But okay,
But
no,
yeah, we can. Yeah, I know.
yeah, let's
We
move it
got into
away.
Laker talk there for a second.
Right, because we can sit back and and rightfully so. It's not because we're Laker fans. It's
But if
just
I
the
had to
fact.
predict, my dramatic prediction is LeBron's either a Warrior or a Clipper. As if we're
Yeah,
having the
I
same
didn't think about the
conversation,
Clippers, and that's such a
and I
strong.
honestly wouldn't fault LeBron himself if he did that. Honestly, necessary.
Right, I can see that given where the Lakers need to go. And
Yes.
let's pivot, kind of staying in the same. I don't know, staying in the same footprint, but it does bring up an interesting question that we kind of touched on earlier in terms of the NBA not really reaching out. Because I was like looking at the infographic, and the T Wolves are down there about 26 games, I think it is. So
Yeah.
we got Ant-Man, you've got Jaw, you obviously got SGA, and those guys who just won the championship. Trey Young, obviously, whatever planet he's on, the guys
Yeah.
on the Knicks. Then you've got Chef and LeBron and KD, basically, the old guard, where guys like Booker fit into that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know where Kawhi even fits in because he's kind of the old guard too, I
Yeah. He
suppose.
is. He's in the old guard too. I never.
Right, but it's kind of like this weird thing where the torch being passed, and I don't even know where this is going to with the direction of this league.
Oh no, I don't know where the torch is. I mean, okay, it makes sense for SGA. obviously with the season um he just had. I mean, Jokic is like a historically great player. I mean, if he retired tomorrow, he's a historically great player. But he's just such a different animal that he doesn't seem like someone that could carry the torch for the whole league necessarily. I mean, Tatum, just because of his market that he's in, seems like the best like marketing face because being a Celtic, having recently won a title, still relatively young, but he's out for the next year. So,
Sure. And the
um,
Celtics have made moves accordingly to
and even it's crazy that
deal with
like when
that.
you look at someone
Same with
like
the Pacers.
Brunson, who plays in the biggest market in the country, but I don't get a sense that outside of hardcore NBA fans, you know who he
Nobody
is.
knows that.
No
And
one knows who
that's
he is. Like everyone knows who LeBron and Steph is. You
mhm,
could never watched a
Katie.
basketball game in your life and you know who those two. In fact, I might even put Durant in that same
I would
category.
say Katie has to be in that.
But I don't think there's anyone outside of those three, and they're all old geezers at this point in their life,
Very long in
in
the
their
tooth.
NBA career. Outside of those three, I don't know if there's anyone who um, that the general public has name recognition with outside of those three in the NBA, and none of them are going to be in the league in 5 years. So
If not three.
yes. So
Right. Because we've got a lot of these guys. I mean,
I mean, they
in
have
the
a
next
lot.
tier,
They look
Dame
at a
Dollar
lot of
Holler, right?
yeah.
You've got guys like that who, okay, obviously he's also in the injured realm, and when he comes back, and a Portland team that's supposedly going to be better. I don't know about being a threat because we kind of talked about the sell last time and all that kind of stuff, and that's a whole nother
That is
interesting
a whole nother
conversation.
story. They're not.
Yeah.
I don't see them being a threat, but I I mean they should be. They made a mini run at towards the play in last year,
Mhm.
so but I just don't see anyone on that team being a superstar. Honestly, like a guy who will consistently be a top five player in the NBA. So
Okay, okay. So obviously we're gonna have several conversations about the NBA, definitely, especially how easy this format is. Definitely have lots of video chats with the NBA. But in the 20 minutes we got left, let's flip it to the queens of the court because there's a lot to talk about here real quick. And since we last talked, even more developments, because the psychos, in terms of, we talked about this last time, the Wall Street Journal, there needs to be an investigation of what's happened
oh
with
yeah,
Caitlin Clark. And now that Sophie's gotten hurt, the
oh
conspiracy theorists are out of their minds. And we gotta revisit what is up with all these psychos. They're like, it's a rough and tumble competitive league. What do you all expect, especially with social media, like, Sophie and her cute blondness and her jujitsu, and she played football, and, she's a
yeah,
badass. She's a fucking
yeah,
ninja.
she is. Yes, she
Right.
is. She's
But this idea, like, oh my God, these thugs took her out, and it's just psychotic. Give me your take on all this madness.
Well, Sophie being out for the year today, I mean, I actually haven't had the chance yet to check out the Twitter pages of the usual suspects,
Right.
So I'm sure I'll see some stuff that will just be mind-boggling when I do check that out. Um, but like I kind of said last time, was just like I just wonder what I mean, they act like this is unprecedented in the way basketball's been played, and it really isn't. Like the young up and coming person always has a target on their back. It doesn't matter, especially like the rookie who's come in. There's these people who have played a part in building the league. That's something you would expect. I mean, we we all know that those people that are like, we know who they are. They're bringing up those stories. They're trying to use it for like an agenda that is not really sports related,
Well,
in my
sure.
opinion.
And it's mostly
So
men is what's crazy.
yes, and it's worked. I mean, like I said, we give her credit. She deserves tremendous credit for bringing eyeballs to the league. I mean,
Mhm.
the fact that these WNBA teams that play in these smaller arenas have to move their games to the NBA size arena whenever she comes to
Oh,
town.
we're
It's
talking Caitlin Clark, obviously.
yes, yes.
Sure.
It's pretty
They were
insane. It
she
says
got
a
them on
lot.
charter flights.
Yes. She's brought a lot, but at the same time, I don't think that these players have to bow down to her because of that. I don't, I mean, you thank her, obviously, but
Sure.
on the court, she's a competitor. I mean, I just want to
Right.
say, God, look at what Michael Jordan, like, look at what those bad boy Piston
Oh,
teams did back in the day
oh,
to Michael
absolutely.
Jordan. It's
The
like,
Jordan rules. And that
yes.
and
Heck,
that's the
some of our
crazy thing.
classic Lakers Celtic battles
Oh,
that
sure.
we had in the 80s. How many like mini altercations, brawls you happen? And it was all like just part of the league. It's part of what happens. I mean, and it's not even this isn't even limited to women's basketball. It's limited to anyone who gets hyped up this much in any sport. You want to, and you know what? I don't blame these players for bringing their A game against her every single time because you want to, you kind of want to send a message that, this is still our league or this isn't going to be something you just walk
I'm gonna
into
roll over for
and
you. But
and
to
put
that point, and this is something that, Whitlock being the fruitcake that he is, he can make some salient points
yes, he can. Yeah,
a
he
few
did.
times a week, but then he gets into his weirdness in how the WNBA turns.
Yes, he does.
He does make a good point in terms of the league and transparency and the weirdness around not only Caitlin Clark's injury, which makes you wonder if she's going to play again this season, but the mysterious Angel Reese basically saying, "Oh, my team sucks. My back is bugging out." But in both of these cases, it's kind of like these two are kind of the face of the fucking league, and they're not out there and the product is suffering. It's like that. It's what like is Caitlyn coming back? Well, I'm kind of watching because there is a lot of interesting stuff, which we'll get to in a second, that's
Oh yeah.
going on right now. But how this is being handled, and I'm not sure. There's no idea whether or not we're going to see either one of them. In Angel's case, I get it. She may have given up on her team, but with Caitlyn, did she overdo it with buffing up a little bit to try to get tougher? What's going
I mean,
on
I
here?
think Caitlyn will be back before the. Okay, Indiana's going to be in the playoffs in all likelihood. I mean, it's not
Yeah,
a
I can't see
guarantee.
them going off the cliff, especially winning that game against the Sun without
Yeah,
Sophie for
I mean,
sure.
I think they'll make the playoffs. They played really well without her. Actually, we'll see if that keeps up with the latest injury they got. Um, but I think Caitlyn will be back. Angel Reese, I don't know what's going on with her.
Her team
She
stinks. It's just like
Her team,
fuck it.
it could be as simple as her team stinks. Why risk it?
Hmm.
Um, she was balling
Well,
out
she's balling.
before.
Yeah, as we said last time, she is a top six player, and you
Yeah,
can
she's
hate
a
on her
top
all she
six. I
wants.
mean,
Mhm.
um, yeah, she was balling out, and realistically, it might be for the better if she's not 100%. Save her, get a bet. I mean, give yourself a chance to get a better draft pick because we all know that's how basketball works in a lot of ways. Um, so I don't see her coming back if she doesn't have to, or maybe she gets back in for the last. I mean, I don't even know like it's not even really clear how serious her injury is. So and they haven't announced her out for the season, so we'll have to see what happens. I mean, heck, in a couple of weeks they got 2 games right out here in Vegas, so
Okay.
maybe I'll check those out.
So to that point, great segue as
Yes.
far as what my next question was going to be. So it's been interesting in your town with that team. Obviously, the portrait of the lovely Kelsey
Oh
Plum, who
yes.
I want to slap for walking back the whole Caitlin Clark thing. It's like, don't
Yes.
come weeks later saying it was a joke when you know it was true.
No, yes, yes,
Yeah, but we'll leave that aside for a second.
yes.
What I want to know is that the Aces, who at times look like doggy poo,
Yeah,
have kind of found their way. Do
they
you
have
see
found
them
their way.
making a run for the chip?
They're making I mean, they could actually at this point, I think they could make a run at the playoffs. I mean, Minnesota looks good. Minnesota looks very good. Collier might win the MVP this year. I mean, I don't, but at the same time, mainly because of the team's record, but I still think Asia is the best player in the WNBA. If I had to pick one person to have on my team the whole year, I would still pick Asia Wilson. Um, they kind of I think they kind of struggled adjusting to life without Kelsey Plum at the beginning of the year. Um, I mean, Jewel Lloyd didn't seem to be as good a fit, but she's kind of found her way Becky started ever since Becky started taking her off the bench. She's found her way. Um, and they have the talent to make a run. I mean, whether they could beat New York um or Minnesota in a playoff series, I don't
Okay.
know.
This
But
is a good question here, real quick, because you kind of like,
but they've definitely they found a groove. I mean, they were fighting for the last spot of the playoff just like two
sure.
weeks ago, but now they've got there's no question they'll make the playoffs right now.
Okay,
And
so
heck, I would love it if they got a first round matchup with Indiana, honestly, and Caitlin and the
okay, so
Queen
to that end,
playoff series.
to that end, New York, who's really struggled without B Stu, and this is kind of a two-parter as well, because I see now
Yes.
that we've hit the 10-minute mark. Okay, A, their struggles without B Stu and looking vulnerable, and Sabrina, who has been nothing but stalwart, but seems to always be on the periphery of the conversation. You know, she's got kind of a social media presence. She cleans up world. She's not fucking a hottie like Sophie, you know,
No.
right? But it's kind of weird how she just kind of exists. She's, you know, a very accomplished pro, and nobody's going to argue that she's brought a lot to the game. But then the team itself kind of looking like, yeah, I don't know whether I can trust them or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I was a Liberty fan, I would feel fine because I would think they'd get B Stu back for the
Which
playoffs.
would be, it's going to be
They could
huge.
compete with anyone. And I mean, B Stu hurts. I mean, I still would say they have two of the top 6 or 7 players in the NBA or in the WNBA.
Okay.
Um, so I mean, it could be fine, but it does kind of give you an insight on the struggles that the Liberty have been having without her. I mean, they just lost that game to Vegas recently. I mean, it's not like I said, it'll all matter when the playoffs start, though. If they could get another, I don't see them not making a run if B Stu's healthy. At the end
Okay.
of the day, and you know what, Sabrina. I mean, she's she's still a top 5, 6 player in the
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
WNBA,
It's
maybe
just
even a top 3 or 4, honestly. But but yeah, I mean, and I think her game is still I still would counter her. It's just that New York doesn't. I mean, they got Jonquel Jones, who's good also. So
mhm.
I mean, it does say how much the big band still matters in the WNBA, though. You know, because
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
if the Aces lost Asia as an example, they would in fact, they would not be a playoff team. I'll go as far as to say that. So in the W, at least, I'm not necessarily sure. Whereas like the NBA has become more of a guard oriented league. I'm still think you need like at least some sort of post presence in the WNBA to really be successful. You know, at this point, still. So just going small doesn't seem to work as well for whatever reason. It could be because they don't have as good outside shooting, or if you're driving to the basket, it's harder for WNBA players to finish close to the rim necessarily. So you still need someone who could make that easy shot. And like the amount of players that could shoot 40 in the high 40s or low 50s from the field is few and far between in the WNBA. So when you lose someone that could do that, it is definitely a big loss for your
Oh,
team.
huge.
So
Okay, so as we're getting close to winding this down, we still got a couple of minutes. Um, the Lynx. Clearly the class, the league right now, what are they like 22-5 or something like
something
that?
like yes, I think they're like 28-6 or something like
Okay, okay,
that when I last
perfect, perfect.
looked.
And
Um they're the class, they're the favorites. Like I said, I think Collier will win the MVP.
I don't think there should be any argument there.
I like I said, I will still say she's not the best. She's
No,
the
no, but the
second best.
season
She's the
they've had,
second best player in the
right?
WNBA.
But the season they've had,
But the
given the
season they've
struggle
had
the
will make it
Aces
so she
have
wins it.
had to get to this point, yeah, I'd
Yes.
be 2000% behind that.
Yes. But yeah, the 2000% behind that.
Hmm.
And you know what? They're looking great for I mean, I'm still okay. They're the class this year. I would still pick New York to beat them if both teams were fully healthy in a playoff series, though. So, um, so they could be in for disappointment, but I don't know. The format changing this year makes it a little different. I mean, actually, I think we're just in for some good basketball, though. That's one thing I'm just generally looking forward to. Like Phoenix has been a surprise. Heck, an Aces Minnesota second round matchup. I mean, if I'm Minnesota, that's not necessarily a team I want to play in the playoffs because they have championship in the second round in a best of five situation. Um, Mainly because they got championship pedigree still. Um, Heck, one thing I don't say this could happen, but the WNBA does a best 2 out of 3 in the first round.
Hmm.
The Sparks look like they could be the 8th seed, and in a 2 out of 3 format, that's not even that's especially with Brink back for the
I was
Sparks.
about to say the
Um,
lovely Cameron Brink
Kelsey
making an impact.
Kelsey is actually okay. Kelsey's playing as good as Kelsey's had as good a year as any guard has had
Oh,
this year.
totally. I
I
agree.
mean, I don't know what went on at the end of her tenure in Vegas that made
Hmm.
them feel like they had to make that move, but she's as from a guard perspective, she she's may have actually been better than Sabrina this year, honestly.
Oh, I think so.
So
I truly do.
yeah, so I mean, a team of Kelsey Plum gives you a shooter's chance in a best 2 out of 3 series.
Oh, sure.
So
And
I
listen,
don't know if
and getting Cameron Brink back.
and getting Cameron Brink back, you have someone inside. So that would be a scary situation if I was Minnesota having to play the Sparks in the first round,
Sure,
you know.
sure.
So I mean,
Sure had a
I'm
short
looking
series.
forward to the WNBA playoffs because honestly, like summer's kind of a boring season for me. I can't be one of those people that gets totally into preseason football and
Yeah,
even
where I'm kind of the junkie. I've obviously got the MLS, sure.
yes. And baseball's kind of, what it is right now. So like the end of the WNBA is something that that I definitely will pay attention to keep myself entertained,
No.
especially as, get closer to the play. I think the playoffs will be great this year
Oh,
because
absolutely. And
I
there's
see
so
two
much intrigue,
intrigue. I
especially
have two solid favorites because there's two solid favorites, but there's also other teams that I think could make a run that you don't necessarily think, with Vegas being one of them. Vegas
right. And
definitely,
obviously the Caitlin Clark effect, you
and if
know.
Clark comes back, I mean, I don't know with Sophie being out, but I still think they have I mean, okay, Clark in the playoffs is intriguing too if she could get her shot back
Sure. And
for
that's
a playoff series,
obviously a big
especially
question
since
as well. Because she was
I think
lost.
Indiana could drop to a 6 or 7,
Mhm.
maybe even they drop to that 8 spot themselves. So I
All
mean, like
possible.
I said, 2 out of 3. Like what I will say is, I don't necessarily like first round being best 2 out of 3, but that adds so much intrigue when I look at what the bottom that a top team could have to play Indiana or LA in the first round in that format, and both of those teams have a player that could just have a lights out shooting performance
Oh,
and just
truly, 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 truly. Okay. Well, I think we've almost reached the end of this, and
Yes.
the beautiful thing about this is I think we can, check in here once the season gets going and we get close to the NBA, do this again, maybe
Yes,
not
we
as
could.
long.
And when it goes, when it does it, and then maybe we could analyze the end of the WNBA season.
Exactly.
We'll
And the
have
beginning of the
football.
NBA, there's going to be a lot going on here
There'll be a lot. I mean,
in the
heck, that
next six
Oregon Penn
weeks.
State game's in September, so that's coming up
Right. And
pretty
we
soon.
obviously got a blockbuster this, week in the true week one, but we have
Yes, in the
weeks left.
real week one, there's two blockbuster games
Right.
already. So,
So yeah, so I have a feeling, folks, we'll be back chatting, especially in the format that this is all going to. All
yes.
right. Well, I appreciate you coming on
Oh,
and
no problem. Always enjoy it.
doing this again after the snafus. Can't wait to get this out. And we'll be talking soon.
All right, no problem. Thank
Okay.
you.
Peace.
All right, all right, all right. Episode 2 is in the books. I want to thank Alec Ford for coming into the Foxhole, take some time out to speak to us about hoops and the NCAA. We'll definitely have him back as both seasons progress. Meanwhile, we've got some other great guests coming up. Got an NFL preview. I'm going to be working that out hopefully this week. Maybe some MLB stuff before the playoffs. A lot of exciting stuff about to happen in the Foxhole. As I said before, keep an eye out for content from my bud SJ, the SJ Gets Down universe. Exciting time in the pot spear for some of us. All right, folks. Keep it real, keep it clean and tight, enjoy adult beverages, and keep an eye out for AfterShox episode 3. And also always tune in on Thursday or Friday for the regular Fox Trotting in a Foxhole podcast. Peace, y'all.